top 5. You can move it if you want.
Yeah, it's fine.
Cool.
A person is more likely to commit a crime when they haven't yet been recognized by an AI system than when they have to confront security guards and public shame. Firstly, on what is the status quo and setup, then onto why NEG is unable to reduce crime, then secondly on comparatively how we reduce crime better, then thirdly on why it causes distrust among the average citizens, and Jumana will extend on why you get more cooperation with security personnel. Okay, so what is the status quo? Firstly, we tell you that we have security guards at the entrance and exits who keep an eye on things and check receipts if needed. Secondly, there are product scanners at the exit of the store. And thirdly, security cameras that get checked once a crime has occurred. This is retrospective. And why are these mutually exclusive to our side? Firstly, we tell you that AI development and training is very expensive, so supermarkets will cut down on other security means to ensure that their customers get products at cheaper prices, right? And secondly, the company no longer feels needed to hire people for security because there is this advanced real-time surveillance that constantly watches their customers. Thirdly, with the product scanners, they have some sort of need to run the barcode system and updates, and they need people to do this. I'll probably cut down on this too. Now, firstly, we tell you that in this debate, there are two types of criminals we're dealing with. Firstly, the new offenders, and secondly, the re-offenders. Now onto why NEG is unable to reduce crime. Firstly, AI facial recognition is largely inaccurate, right? This is because, A, it targets old offenders because they are the only ones that are currently in the system, and secondly, because the only factor that is taken account into the system, and therefore there is no recognition of a new offender or the likely new offender. The second reason is because people can conceal their face. This looks like a group of people wearing balaclavas or face masks and they run out of the store. We tell you this makes it a lot harder to distinguish. Thirdly, they have no proper means of catching the offender, even if AI picks up on them, right? For 4 reasons. A, there are no actual security guards, and when I told you why this is mutually exclusive, to catch them. And secondly, because they're unlikely to call the police because the police are told they stole something years or months ago. They're probably not really going to care about this because they have more important things to care about. Even if they do re-offend in the same place while they're caught by the AI facial recognition, the police are unlikely to be called because it's a small petty crime. So they have bigger issues to deal with and violent crime to attend to. We tell you actually catch these criminals by security guards when they can actually get them in the first place. And then we tell you, even if there is a measure to catch these people, it's unlikely that they are re-offending in the same place, right? This is because of the facial, the face punishment via fines and service. They feel like this is disincentivized and deters them from crime and doing it in the same place. And then secondly, even if people do re-offend in their case, they can easily re-offend in just a different supermarket chain because likely they use different surveillance measures. They use different AI facial recognition processes. Thirdly, to extend on this, we tell you that they actually increase crime on their side. This is because everyone essentially gets a free pass, which they are not recognized by the system, right? The very first time you're not seen as a criminal, you don't have these security guards in place to say to recognize the suspicious behavior. This looks like a group of teens just wanting some snacks and feel like they can get off with a one-off of shoplifting. We think you get an increase the amount of people who just one-off steal, and we think this is a large harm when you see about how many people do with this. Before I move on to the comparative, I'll take a point.
Okay, so given that under New Zealand laws and rules, security guards can't actually stop or physically restrain shoplifters, why would they actually be so effective at stopping them from stealing?
We'll get into this later, but it's about that visual deterrence you get when you see somebody that you have to actually face rather than cameras above you that you really don't see the consequences of. So secondly, on the comparative on how we actually reduce crime better. Firstly, we get physical security guards that deters crimes, right? A, they are trained to see suspicious behavior in the very first instance, and even if both sides are able to detect to the same ability, we actually have the means to stop them, right? This looks like running after the person and saying you need need to stop, you need to come back, or like literally getting other people involved to stop them.
Right.
Or C, security guards that are generally fit and physically capable of doing their job, whereas on NEG, the only physical ones, like the ones that can get it, are the cashiers. You're not deterred when you visually see a cashier, and then employees can't run after these people. They are not trained for this, and even if they are capable, they don't care enough because like one chocolate bar is not going to go beyond their pay. And then secondly, the public shame disincentivizes people, right? Because we get visual deterrence, which you don't get on their side. You don't see those cameras up there as such. When you see a person far larger than you waiting at the exit, seeing if you're like doing something suspicious, this deters you from doing crime because you have things such as like faces being plastered of people who have reoffended. We think that this public shaming disincentivizes people more than just having to deal with like this facial recognition. We tell you that B, you also get to see you get intimidated by a security guard standing there because you have that physical force in place. One young teen is not going to take the risk of stealing an item when they go see like a larger adult waiting at the door, even if the security guard can't like tackle them or can't chase after them. We think this deters you because you have to deal with an adult in that situation. Whereas on our side, you get like the surveillance that on a one-off those instances, and that literally depends on whether they get caught in the first place on their side. The impacts of this is it's important to deter small crimes because they have a culture among certain groups of people, such as teens, that lead to larger crimes in the future because they feel like they can get away with breaking the law. Secondly, we tell you that it normalizes stealing, and now people feel like they can also steal at smaller dairies. We think this is the largest harm when people feel like, oh, I can, like now they've been ticked off in this system, I can just go to other places where they don't have this facial recognition. We think that if people are scared by this advanced technology, they're more incentivized to steal from small businesses. Now, thirdly, onto why it causes distrust among average citizens. We tell you that this is a large proportion of the people. Most people don't do crime, so on their side, we think there are more one-offs. Firstly, we think generally people don't like to be watched by large corporations because when it's in real time, people feel surveilled constantly, whereas on our side, it's more passive and used as a retrospective tool once a crime has occurred, right? If a security guard catches a person stealing stuff, they can then inform people later to go check surveillance. If they're unable to tackle them, they can try recognize this person. We think this is better than on their side of house. And people value their sense of privacy in general, right? So they're not going to like it when there's large corporation that has so much money. People tend to have distrust in these large corporations. So when you have further distrust, we tell you that there's a massive harm in terms of social order. In general, there is public skepticism on AI as well because A, it's a new industry and people don't really know what it's capable of. And secondly, because it's seen as more advanced than humans, so people feel like they're being mistreated or overly surveilled. The impacts of this is that people distrust those huge providers in the government who may have access to this data. Even if the government doesn't have access to the data, these huge supermarkets can now use this, or even if they aren't able to use this in with malicious intent, we tell you that people just are scared of AI because they don't know what it's like, what they could do with that information. And when people see that every time they go to just buy food, the fact that their faces are being scanned and compared to old data, that is what scares people. That is what scares people from entering a supermarket in the first place, or makes people just feel unsafe in general. In the worst case, it looks like people trying to boycott PAK'nSAVE, in which their prices have to go up because less people buy, or like social disorder and creating that feeling of like controversy and also surveillance. On the lower scale, it looks like someone feeling unsafe or uncomfortable when they're just buying their necessities. They're so proud to side with side affirming.
I'd like to thank the speaker for her speech. I'd like to invite up Person David to go to the speech.
when supermarkets ethically use facial recognition technology, it has all of these beneficial outcomes for communities of all scales, as it keeps these supermarkets in business and deters future criminals. So 4 things I'll do in today's speech. Firstly, on some responses. Secondly, on setup. And then thirdly, how facial recognition deters crime. And then finally, why facial recognition technology will work efficiently. Luke will bring his substantive proportion to the contribution to the debate in the form of a split on how we incentivize the development of facial recognition technology. So firstly, on some quick responses, I want to note here that they made their first and second point contingent on the fact that security guards are going to lose their jobs on our side of the house. We think that this has really mischaracterized the role of security guards, because we think that firstly their job is just to deter crime, and then secondly to enforce the rules in like criminal situations. Like they want to enforce the fact that the people won't be stealing. Like this still exists on both sides. We still want this on the negating side of the house. So then let's address this point on like one-off criminals, because we won't have security guards on the negating side of the house. So firstly, security guards are still obviously going to exist on our side of the house. They've given us no reason why they wouldn't, so we're just going to accept that. So, but uniquely on our side of the house, we get the fact that these kids and these like criminals who are supposedly doing these one-off crimes don't actually want to be on a record, right? Like note that being on this record is going to have impacts on your entire life. For a young kid going into a supermarket, this looks like it affecting your school life, because it's likely these supermarkets are going to report it to your school so that you can take action at the school, like put them in a detention. And also, they still want to have the ability to go to that supermarket. Like no one wants to be banned from their local dairy. That's where they're like getting all their lollies from. Like these kids want that. So secondly, on like this distrust that we heard from our first app. So the mechanisms that they gave us were all on about like the physical camera, like scaring people off and being intimidating. So we think that this still exists on AF. I don't know why they think that they don't have like CCTV on the affirming side of the house. Like they still depend, like most of the security at supermarkets is contingent on like having security cameras in place so they can like keep records and keep track of people coming in and out. So moving on to some setup. How does the system work? So it's just technology that recognizes faces as they walk past and then matches it to an existing database. Once they have a match, CCTV operators confirm that it is in fact a match. And if it is confirmed, we think it looks like them watching this person closely through the cameras or taking steps like asking for some ID, discussing it with them, and if it's necessary, we think they'll ask them to leave with the support of the security guard. So what's the world without this AI technology look like? So it looks like just having 1 or 2 CCTV operators like in the status quo, which is a huge drop. Like they have like an endless list of criminals and records, and plus they're like watching cameras simultaneously, and these people aren't really motivated to care very much. Like they're probably just on a minimum wage. They don't want to be sitting in a chair all day watching cameras. We think that having facial recognition act as a screening system allows the CCTV operators to be more productive. Note that in New Zealand law, security guards can't physically do anything, so we think that this is far more effective. So to win the debate, we need to prove that we reduce crime. So firstly, on how facial recognition deters crime, but I'll take a POI real quick.
Wouldn't you agree that the development of an AI that needs to like scan thousands of faces a day is going to be expensive, and that's why these firms can't then hire?
Okay, I thought that this was kind of like a unrelated point that First Af brought up. Like we're talking specifically about New World and PAK'nSAVE. Like these are huge multi-million-dollar corporations. Like they have branches like in literally every city and town across New Zealand. Like they do have the capacity to invest a bit of money into developing the security systems and preventing crimes from happening within their stores. So on how facial recognition deters crime. What is the nature of supermarket crimes? So firstly, we think it's like only small quantities, right? It's because they don't want to be getting caught, so they think taking a little bit is easier not to get caught. Secondly, it's quite opportunistic. Like it's not going to be pre-planned crimes or like schemes. Thirdly, we think it's like youth like trying to impress their mates by taking a chocolate bar or something. So note that this isn't like this on the spectrum of like feeding your entire family. We think that there's not strong pressures here to commit that crime. Therefore, there is a low criteria for the supermarkets to overrule that need for the criminal to be committing that. They do it because they think that they get more than actually needing it. So how does this tech affect people? Firstly, people know it works. Like, this looks like on a daily basis where people are using their facial recognition on their phone to open their phone every single day when they use it. Like, they're seeing this function every, 30 seconds when you, check a text message, so they know it works. Secondly, they don't want to be on a record. Like, they might be okay with getting caught once under the affirming side of the house, under the negating side, but they still want to be going into the store. Like, this might be their local pack and save, and they might actually need to be going there to get groceries. Thirdly, stores make it, quite clear what the function is and what it's doing. Like, they're going to be advertising it. People are going to see the cameras. Fourthly, rumors are going to spread. Like, we think there's going to be a lot of talk about how the AI technology does work. We don't think they're going to be talking about it not working because that's, not as cool. It's not a good story. So it seems more scary for people. They're going to, not want to go against it. So what does this mean? Less people take the risk of committing these crimes. They see it as not worth it, and note that there is only that small incentive to commit that crime to begin with. So what will happen from that? Firstly, supermarket employees don't have to deal with these petty crimes going on. This looks like not having to chase some young kids who have stolen some lollies out of the store. That isn't their job. They're on minimum wage. They don't need to put up with that. This also looks like B, citizens not having to deal with it. Like, when an old couple is going to the grocery store, they don't want to be caught in the crossfire of a group of kids getting told off by employees. Secondly, less people are committing these crimes. Like, supermarket crime is really like an entry-level crime. Like, people think, oh, I can get away with this. Oh, I've taken this prime drink. Like, this creates a cycle where they think they can continue to commit and do it on a larger scale. Particularly note here that youth are going to be very vulnerable here and are now deterred when they're on this record. Like, they don't want to be on that record for their school life. They don't want to be getting a detention. They don't want to be getting expelled. Like, they're letting their family down in that light. And then B, they just don't want to be going on and doing more crime. We stop that on our side when we deter them from that. Note that these things do impact their entire life. This is really important for the debate. Thirdly, in severe scenarios where crime is really regular in particular stores, they might have to be shutting down these stores. This means jobs are lost. People are vulnerable now. They can't put food on the table for their family. We prevent that when we get less crime. So note that this point works regardless of whether this technology is works really well. The idea of this is enough to stop crime. This isn't contingent on a second point. So why does facial recognition technology work effectively? What are the incentives of these stores? Firstly, they want to get consumers, which means they secondly need to look good, they need to look safe, they need to look like a professional environment. Thirdly, they don't want bad attention because if they do get bad media, this looks like getting boycotted or having legal action taken against you. So why will this technology therefore be implemented well? Firstly, they have the budget to get high quality technology. I've already spoken on how New World and PAK'nSAVE are such big corporations. Secondly, in general, technology is at quite a high quality nowadays and is still developing really well. Thirdly, their public image is going to be hurt really bad if any racial profiling were to occur. So they're going to be incentivized to get better technology or invest in technology with better AI training and seek out tech with diverse databases. So it's unlikely that they're going to get flagged on these systems. So this means that that point doesn't stand from affirming. But even if it does misfire, firstly, we have human checkers in place who are biologically wired to recognize faces. Secondly, it's not a big deal. They just check ID and ask them to leave politely. They don't want to get it wrong. This means that one, we don't get misfires, but even if we do, secondly, we don't get any harmful encounters. And thirdly, the systems improve. We get more AI systems in society.
I'd like to thank the speaker for his speech. I'd like to invite up the second speaker for the deferment.
A world where people are too fearful of walking into a supermarket because of a fear they're going to be watched by an AI that is tracking their faces, consistently seeing what they are doing, and not actually catching criminals is a world that is extremely harmful because not only do they not catch criminals, they cause an insane fear and like just an overall negative effect on innocent shoppers in a supermarket. Okay, 4 things in my speech today. Firstly, on like the idea of security guards as a whole. Secondly, on the effectiveness of AI. Thirdly, on the perception of AI by like regular society and just innocent shoppers. And then finally, I'm going to split and talk about why on our side of the house we get more cooperation with security personnel. Okay then, firstly on security guards. Now, we told you very early on at first that with AI, it is highly unlikely that you were gonna actually get any action against these people, because if you get scanned on a facial recognition software, it is unlikely then that anyone's actually going to be chasing you up for the crime, right? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? An employee is gonna get a notification that someone walked in. The things that they have told us, then they're going to be actively watched through security cameras once they are matched. Now, not only is this overall making AI really ineffective, because you're still getting people who are checking security cameras, and like the AI doesn't actually end up benefiting anyone, because we are still having making people watch things through through security cameras anyways. We also see that like this will only be benefiting, this will only be affecting repeat offenders, right? On their side of the house, the only people that they are somewhat still catching are repeat offenders, because these are the only people that we are going to be having on these profiles anyways. Okay, now why do we think then that on their side of the house it is unlikely they're going to be having security guards anyways, right? They tell us that we can have security guards on both sides. Firstly, we tell you that it's already too costly to keep them on both sides, right? It's too expensive to be developing an AI software that scans the details of thousands of faces every day. Like, there's already a pay comparison, right? They're likely going to be investing in these scientists for high quality cameras, for high quality AI. They're going to be investing so much money into this AI anyways. We've already heard from both sides, like both sides can agree on like the fact that these companies are profit incentivized. So therefore, they have an incentive to be cutting costs to maintain margins. It is likely that they're going to be investing in the field of securities, because that is where like the costs are increased. These are multi-million-dollar companies, so they still want profit. It is unlikely then that they are able to keep both. They're likely going then to be cutting security because of this belief that AI is going to be catching people. So they're likely not even going to have security guards on their side. Why is this really harmful? Well, it is harmful in the way that even if we do end up scanning these security guards, scanning these criminals, no one's going to be able to catch them anyways, right? No one's going to be actually getting them. The thing that they tell us is the security guards can't physically be getting people. Now the reasons, like here are a few reasons then why they actually can be getting them. Firstly, they can just make someone leave if they're seeing suspicious activity, right? These security guards, they are trained in the art of seeing someone who's constantly stuffing their jacket with chocolate bars. They can just like make them leave and ask them nicely to leave. Secondly, it is likely they can chase after someone who steals something and run. AI cannot do that unless we develop some secret robot weapon AI that's going to be chasing people. It's unlikely this is going to be happening. On our side of the house, we actually have humans chasing up these people and actually stopping people from making crimes. Thirdly then, if we want to believe the idea that they can't actually tackle them to the ground and make them stuff, it is likely they can detain them until like actual authority who can be doing stuff can arrive in the case of like repeated hostility. Fourthly, we also see that it is likely to, with security guards being present, they can preserve, like it is more likely then they can deter it through the idea that they can block an exit, even that they can just stand at the door and can't make people leave, or just like make sure that people can't leave. And even in the final case where the security guards cannot be catching people, well, neither can AI, right? If we have security personnel not being able to detain people, well, neither can an AI software. It is unlikely this is going to happen anyways. Okay, secondly, on the effectiveness of AI as a whole, they tell us that we can be watching people through security through security cameras, and this is just overall opportunistic crime where people just do it on the spot and it just happens, right? So through this, since it happens on the spot, it is unlikely that they're going to be catching new offenders. Like an on-the-spot crime is something that is done by a new offender, who's someone who walks into a supermarket and then thinks it's going to be cool to shoplift. So they're unlikely to already be on a record. It is unlikely that an AI software can be scanning their face anyways. We do not get the a massive benefit that they try to tell you on their side. They also tell you that like it's more effective because like these companies, they have a need to look safe and they don't want bad media, and they like have a budget to invest in this. We've already told you why this budget will only be invested in AI security and unlikely to cut costs then on actual security personnel. But on the idea that they need to look safe, well, I'll extend on this later when I tell you about the perception of AI, but it's unlikely that they're going to be looking safe when they have something that is scanning thousands of faces of even innocent people, right? It's going to be leveling criminals and innocent people and making them overall look really unsafe. Why then are they also likely going to be getting bad media? Well, because First of all, people are just overall really critical. They tell us that the AI is going to be praised and it's going to be awesome, but people are likely going to criticize it first. No one has like a loving mindset who's like, oh my god, AI is amazing. People have like a hater mindset. They're going to think of like a security of a PAK'nSAVE taking in like an AI thing. They're likely going to criticize first for the reason of this mistrust in AI, for the reason that they're just overall going to be getting bad media, because it is likely that it's going to be it's likely going to be seen that they're only catching repeat offenders with no one actually detaining these people. Okay, thirdly, on the perception of AI, before I do that, I will be taking a point.
Things like airport security, breath testing, and bag checks are everyday examples of people willingly taking measures to weed out actual criminals. Why would this level of cooperation not apply to this case?
Because once you have security AI checking this stuff, you will unlikely have the security guards to be actually doing these breath tests. And in the idea of airport security, why is airport security being compared to PAK'nSAVE security? It is likely that an airport is going to have higher security that is run by people who can detain them because it's an airport. There's more harm to be able done at an airport. And as like a PAK'nSAVE, the worst thing you can do is steal a Whitaker's bar, right? It is just simply not like equal crime. Okay, the perception of crime then is why the perception of AI. Now we tell you why there is distrust in AI on our side from multiple reasons as on Katie, why people actually find AI to be really scary, why they just don't want to be going into a supermarket and having their faces constantly scanned. They tell us on their side of the house, like their main response is that, well, we already have CCTV and people just know that they're constantly being watched. Now the thing is, the CCTV is just, first of all, people just don't really care about security cameras being around, right? Why do they not care about security cameras being around? Because they know that is there for their safety. Why is it worse when we have like AI systems implemented in this? Because they know that they're being scanned, right? If you walk into a supermarket and see that there's a security camera just watching over everyone, you know it's there to keep you safe. You see a security personnel, you know they are there to keep you safe in the case of something bad happens. However, on their side of the house, they have people terrified to walk in because they're like an innocent single mother going in and with her children, knowing that her face is being scanned, every movement she does is being tracked, and that is just overall really scary for an average person. Finally, then, why on our side of the house we get more cooperation with security personnel. Now, first of all, on our side of the house, we are more likely to get citizens reporting on suspicious behavior. On the next side of the house, people will assume that this like facial recognition will pick up on like criminals, and so they're unlikely to report anything that they find suspicious. They're just going to be content to ignore the crime as it happens because they don't feel any moral obligation to report anything because they think that the AI is going to be doing it on by itself. On our side of the house, we see they're more likely to be alerting security if they see that someone's doing anything suspicious, like consistently holding their jacket, like stuffing their pockets, because they feel like they have a need to be doing this stuff because they know that the AI is just like not there. Why then? They're also more likely just to be allowed to be, like they're going to feel more likely to be searched. Because like if they see that they're stopped by security personnel on their way out, it is likely they're going to be stepping aside and actually cooperating with them in the ways that they're going to be like, in the ways that they know that there's likely means for them to be held accountable. They're going to be showing receipts, let their bags be checked because they know the security probably saw them doing something suspicious. With AI, it is unlikely this is going to be happening because people don't trust in AI because they believe there's like a room for error with like a computer program. And we also see they're just simply argumentative because they're just not happy with this. This is why you should stand with side affirming.
I'd like to thank the speaker for his speech. I'd like to invite up the second speaker for the debate.
People do not want to go on a record. People understand that when this AI will track them and will put their faces on these records, that's actually going to be bad for them in the long run. What this means is that regardless of whether or not we can prove to you that this AI software does actually accurately track these re-offenders, that what this means is that we get a deterrent from crime regardless of this. We get a deterrent simply because this AI exists and simply because these supermarkets talk about having this software in place. That is the way that we reduce crime on our side. That is the way that we stop youth offending. That is the way that we get the best outcomes. Okay, I have 3 things to touch on in this speech. Firstly, a point of clash on like how we reduce crime. Secondly, a point of clash on public distrust. And then thirdly, my substantive contribution on how we actually incentivize the development of facial recognition technology. So just firstly on like how we reduce crime. Note that this was like the majority of this debate. That's where like most of the impacting was at like both of the first speeches. So I just want to touch firstly on what's actually symmetric on both sides, because I think a lot of the first affirmative speech was like largely symmetric and talked about things that happen on both sides. So firstly on security guards, right? They tell us that they have to cut down costs, so they will fire security guards. Why is this not true? Because firstly, supermarkets have the money to not be able to do with this, right? Like in New Zealand, we see a supermarket duopoly. That means they're able to charge high prices and they have a lot of money. They turned like really large profits during COVID. They're these like huge chains. They have a lot of stores. They have a lot of like people going to them. Like, and also it's the fact that like these security guards are probably not paid that well anyway in the first place. So by cutting these security guards, you're not really turning that much of a cost. Like what we think is more realistic is that like they just have those profits to begin with. Like we know there was controversy over the fact that these supermarkets were turning large profits, because if they didn't have those profits to begin with, they wouldn't be investing in this technology. They wouldn't be trialing this technology in the first place, which we know happening from that info slide. But secondly, it's because like even if they didn't particularly have like this huge amount of money to invest, it's the fact that security guards don't fulfill the same role as AI technology. They're not like replaceable, right? Because supermarkets still need security guards. They can't cut them. Because what this AI technology does is surveillance. It provides like a means of watching people, a means of tracking people and like putting people on records of like whether or not they're that person's. Security guards don't do that. They stand at the door. They don't actually watch every person. They don't have a mental bank that is telling them like, oh, that person looks like the security guards probably haven't even seen the like faces of previous offenders, right? What do the security guards do? Firstly, they're that physical deterrent that we told you. Like stores still need that even when they have this AI. But secondly, they're the ones who actually physically enforce the law. Supermarkets need people to do that, like in these really bad situations, because they don't want big robberies happening. They want somebody there to stop that thing from happening. They're different to surveillance, so supermarkets still need it on both sides. They're not mutually exclusive, but actually you like even further than that, you actually need these security guards to enforce the AI technology that you're using. Because like, what do you expect to happen on your side? Or like, sorry, what do you expect to happen on our side when this technology is used? If they don't have the security guards, what are they going to do? They're going to like scan, oh, we found this reoffender. Oh, let's just like tell them to go away. Like obviously they need the security guards to go and enforce that when they track and when they find that person is in the store. So they do need security guards on our side. They don't get removed, right? Why else do security guards not get removed? Because thirdly, like supermarkets don't want more crime. If you believe all of their analysis on like why security guards are so essential, why would supermarkets all of a sudden just cut them? They obviously don't want crime, and all of the reasons we give you about that as well. But fourthly, supermarkets don't want the bad press of firing all these security guards and like making all these people lose their jobs, right? Now I want you to note that their entire like first half of their case, their first 2 points were contingent on this idea that we lose security guards, because what else is symmetric on both sides? Secondly, the idea that like people can conceal their faces, that happens on both sides. It's not a unique harm on our side. Thirdly, the idea that like you can't preemptively target new criminals. You only like have the capacity to look out for reoffenders. Again, that's symmetric on both sides. There's no like that's not mutually. There's no way that like that only happens on their side but not on our side. But fourthly, the idea that like you can plaster people's faces up for public shame if they're reoffenders. Again, that happens on both sides. We think that's likely to continue happening to, again, deter this crime. Like, it's not unique to their side. So the rest of their case on like how our side can't reduce crime and how crime actually gets worse on our side relies on not having security guards. So we flip all of the material on why crime is bad. We get all of the outcomes that we gave you on why crime is bad. The only other thing they tell us about like how they reduce crime is that people don't report crime on their side because they think the AI will do it for them. Like, firstly, we point out that like it's not that likely anyway that people are reporting like suspicious activity. Like, people just don't broadly do that, like, because they don't feel like they have the authority to do that in that situation, and also they just don't care that much, to be honest. But secondly, because if you believe all of the material about how people don't trust AI in the first place, then why do you think that, like, it's a contradiction then, that people are going to think that this AI is good enough to do it for them and not like call out their behavior? We think they are, like, whatever small portion of people is likely to call out bad behavior will do it on both sides anyway, so they can't prove that, right? But even if they somehow do prove that you do have less security guards, Ollie's entire first point on how like this AI existing as a deterrent still stands, we still prevent those crimes from happening in the first place. And note that this is like fully independent on whether or not the AI works, whether or not it's accurate. Simply the idea of that AI existing is enough to stop people from committing crimes, because we tell you that there's like not that much pressure on them to make them commit that crime in the first place. It's mostly like a crime of convenience. And so like when there's like that extra pressure of that AI system, they're likely to not commit the crime. Why is this so impactful that then we reduce crime on our side and they like get more crime on their side? Because like at our worst case, we just simply don't get these like crimes where like sometimes people get hurt in the supermarkets and like people are now feeling unsafe because crimes are happening. But we think that in the long term, firstly, we like prevent this idea of an entry-level crime that can actually lead people down bad paths. Like these children who are like not ultimately bad kids, they're doing it because of peer pressure, they're doing it because they think there's no consequences. So now that like we have this extra incentive on them to not commit the crime, that's like means that they're not likely to go and commit more crimes in the future, like when they think that it's okay. But secondly, it doesn't go on these kids' records, it doesn't limit their opportunities in the future, like it doesn't limit them the chance to get a job, to get into a good school, and it also like prevents the school from enacting discipline on them, from like making that environment a bad place for them. This is really important for the youth of today. We can win on this point. Then just quickly on public distrust, we hear that like people don't like to be watched. Like again, this is symmetric. They're watched on both sides. Literally, when you go into a supermarket, there is a screen that like shows you people know that they're being watched, right? But like secondly, facial recognition is already on iPhones. People are generally okay with that, right? We think that the only people that are going to care about this technology are the people who like are actually thinking of stealing because they don't want to be on the records, and that is the deterrence that we get you at Ollie. But thirdly, because people need food, right? They're going to prioritize convenience. They're not going to just not go to a supermarket because like they're scared of this AI. They're just going to ultimately weigh the fact that they want to buy food over that and like the convenience of that. They need it to live. But fourthly, they think that the records aren't going to go anywhere. I'll take a POI quickly.
Do you not think that in a world where people are going to be, do you not think that people who are going to only be caught if they're reoffenders, they already don't care about the record, so you don't get that deterrence you had? If you only catch reoffenders, do you not think they already don't care about their record, so you don't get any of the deterrence we heard at first?
We think that like, no, sorry, the deterrence comes from people who already like who haven't committed the crimes in the first place, but don't want their face now scanned on this technology. We do prevent people who aren't reoffenders. Okay, like also people just don't think these records are going to go anywhere, so they're not really going to care about this public distrust. They never told us why it's actually really that bad that people are distrusting it that much. But even if you do get like people feeling slightly unsafe in the supermarkets, we think you can weigh our material on preventing crime as higher than that. So now onto my substantive contribution. Like technology in facial recognition isn't that developed right now because like there's no corporate incentive to make it super developed. But when we like incentivize these big money corporations to invest in it, they want it to be good, so they don't face legal consequences. They want it to be accurate. The media they don't want to face like media harms, so they're going to actively develop it. That means you're going to get more investment into this technology in the future. It means the AI gets better, gets more accurate. You're able to then use it for things that are really important, like preventing terrorism.
I'd like to thank the speaker for his speech. I'd like to invite up the third speaker, Steve Furman.
If the main way in which NIG deters crime in this debate is that people don't want to be on a record, we tell you that these people are never ending up on records if they're never caught in the first place. We tell you that people who haven't committed crimes before are never caught under neg, and so are never put on any form of record. There's literally no deterrence in that regard. Note that that's debate-winning material, because there's literally people getting away with crimes under their side, just because they haven't committed one and aren't in some database beforehand. Couple of things to cover in the speech. Firstly, on like security guards, or like what the status quo / their side looks like. Secondly, on deterrence of crime and who actually solves the issue of crime better. Secondly, thirdly, on the efficiency of AI, and lastly, on the impact to like general people who like aren't committing crimes anyway. The first thing to cover then is on whether or not neg basically can also claim the benefits that we have of security guards. The first and most important thing we tell you is that it's incredibly expensive to develop AI software that's literally scanning the like exact facial details of every single customer that's entering the store. Note that you have to like pay like high skilled computer science who are going to demand high pay, and you have to pay for like these high quality cameras that are good enough to scan these people's faces. That's a massive cost that these companies are going to need to undergo in order to implement this technology. Note that these companies are profit motivated, right? They have to cut costs in some other area in order to maintain margins. It's not enough for them to tell us that, oh, they have money, they're going to be completely fine with spending money. No, they're not. The thing they care the most about is profit. The thing they care most about is maintaining the barriers to entry. That's why these companies are going to have to cut costs and somewhere else. Note that we tell you that it's really likely that these cost cuts are going to be in the field of security, because like they have like a set security budget, and so they're going to have to, like, if they increase costs in security in one area, they're going to have to decrease it in the other area. Note that neg never refutes the fact that it's expensive. All they tell us is that these companies have enough money in the first place. That's not enough to refute this point. The second thing that we hear here is that security guards don't fill the same role as this AI will. We literally tell you that these security guards are trained like for years to detect suspicious behavior or detect people who are likely to be committing crimes. Note that this is irrespective of whether or not you're an old and new offender. Like, whether or not you've committed a crime before, we tell you that we have security guards who are recognizing that you're likely to be committing this crime in the first place. We tell you that everyone who's committing a crime is caught on their place. Note that, like, their side never takes into account that, like, reoffenders are unlikely to be reoffending. They've been punished. And also, like, they're not stupid enough to go into somewhere that already has their face in the record. So, like, when their entire case and their entire benefit is based on the fact that, like, these reoffenders are going to be coming back, and, like, these reoffenders are going to be the ones being caught, we tell that it's just weighed out of the debate by the fact that, like, reoffenders aren't even coming back anyway. The next thing we hear is that, like, these companies really need security guards, like, they want to reduce crime. Like, the most important thing we tell you here is that they need profit, like, so much, right? They're a duopoly, or, like, they're like an oligopoly. The thing they care the most about is maintaining the barriers to entry, right? What they care most about is making profit, and so that's why they're going to have to like decrease these costs in some area. I'll take a point before I move on.
We think the stores will be buying this tech from a software provider instead of developing themselves because they don't have the expertise. Given that the providers will be incentivized to sell it at a good low price to attract stores, why do you think that stores are unable to afford these low-paid security guards?
Okay, firstly, it's still going to be expensive. Like, even if these AI companies want to sell it at a low price, they can't sell it like at half of their cost. They still have to pay like millions of dollars to like computer scientists. They still have to pay for like the servers and everything, which I think that's like a cost that's necessarily required. Since every actor here like wants profit, they're never just going to be able to sell something at like an incredibly low price. In that regard, so we tell you that like it still will be expensive regardless. The next thing is on whether or not facial recognition actually deters crime. The first thing we hear from neg is that like people know it works because like they use facial recognition on their phone on the daily. Firstly, we tell you that like people, particularly older people, don't really tend to trust AI, right? It's an incredibly new thing. People are like worried about what's going to happen like with their data or like photos of their face and stuff. They don't really trust it to work. So like we tell you that people don't like that doesn't really necessarily have the extent that they want us to believe. But secondly, we tell you that even if this is true to some extent, the comparative is literally huge muscular security guards standing over you as you walk out of the shop. People know that works because it's physically right there. You can see it. It's like actively happening in front of you. We tell you that that's going to lead to like the second thought about the person who was about to like steal the chocolate bar. They'll look over to the security guard and decide, no, I don't want to like be chased by that security guard today. But thirdly, we told that even if like people knowing it work is true to the entire extent that they tell us, since these people are likely to be quite desperate or like making a rash decision on the spot, it's not enough to stop their crime. It's like some thought in the back of their head that, oh, that AI is like really efficient, it's going to work. Okay, the second and most important claim that they try to reiterate here is that people don't want to be on a record, and that's enough to disincentivize them from doing this work. Like from doing these crimes. First, we tell that people don't really care about the record. Like they're just they're like when you're committing a petty crime and it's like all on the spot, like you care more about impressing your friends. Note that since only reoffenders are caught on their side, like if you're reoffending and you're willing to go to the measures, having been punished, having like known what the harms are, we tell you that these reoffenders are probably desperate enough that the record doesn't matter anyway. But like more importantly, we tell you that even if people do care a lot about the record, this is entirely symmetric, because when people are caught on our side, which we tell you that they're caught to a larger extent, they're literally put on a record as well. They have to like go through the court system, photos are taken of their face and stuff like that. Like the school's notified, like everything happens to the exact same extent. So all that it comes down to is who actually catches people more. We've already proved why we catch people more, because we actually like have these security guards who are making unbiased decisions on like every single person coming through the store. Thirdly, then we hear that like the company makes it really clear that they're going to have AI that's detecting your face. First, we tell you these companies aren't necessarily going to make it that obvious, because like when the offender knows that all they need to do is just like cover their face or put a mask on to like get past all the security measures of the store, like when they know that that's all they need to do to walk free, we tell you that the companies don't want that to happen. The company's probably going to try and keep it more like on the down low. But secondly, we tell you that even if it is clear, security guards at the exit is like as clear as it gets. Like even if they get all the benefit that they want to claim, we tell you that like at our worst, this is symmetrical. So at the end of the point of clash, like I think it's really important to note that never actually has the capability to catch new offenders, because like they're not in the system yet, and so like just aren't being recognized by this AI. They can walk free. Anyway, and like note that our material about the fact that like you're literally incentivizing new offenders who know that they can't get caught and who know that they can like walk free because they're not on the system and never will be on the system because they're not going to get caught. Note that we gave you all that material there that went unresponded to. Third Next far too late to respond to that. Also, we gave you material about why reoffenders are uncommon anyway, like because of the fact that they've been through like the system and they're just not stupid enough to go back to somewhere that has their thing. So like at their best case, right, we tell you that like they're stopping people who've committed crimes before, but we tell you that like these reoffenders aren't even that common anyway. The next thing to note is on whether or not the AI is efficient. Note that this is far less important on deterring crime, because like the most tangible thing in this debate is like deterring the crime, and that's why we say that that should be weighed most highly. But even if you care about why AI is efficient, we still think that we want this point. Firstly, the first thing we hear is that like these firms like have the budget to make good tech. I already covered this like in all the other stuff. Like the supermarkets have a budget to ensure that their profit doesn't go down and that their prices aren't going up, so they can maintain their consumers, maintain their barriers to entry. We tell you that like when they have to spend millions on like a computer science training and cameras and stuff, they're necessarily going to have to cut this security budget. But the second thing they tell us that this tech's at a really good quality. We tell you it's just like an incredibly new industry. Like it's just pretty unlikely that you're going to have really good quality AI anyway. So since we're the side that actually stops crime and actually stops new offenders, so proud to have found the debate.
I'd like to thank the speaker for his speech. I'd like to invite up the third speaker of the debate.
The affirmative side lost this debate when they rested their entire case and its validity on whether or not these supermarkets can actually afford security guards. I'm going to do a few things in this debate. First, I'm going to talk about that security guard point in the first place. Then I'm going to cover, secondly, the public cooperation and just response to these measures. Third, I'm just going to briefly touch on like our points and how they went unresponded to about the effects on like communities. And then fourth, I'm going to get into like the effects that we told you about how it deters crime in the first place, right? Then I'll quickly go over our split and then some way towards the end. So first thing I want to talk about is this entire point about security guards. This is obviously incredibly pivotal to the debate because a lot of their material rested on the fact that like this AI system is the only way that these shops have stores have available to stop like physically actually stop or intimidate these shoplifters from committing crimes in the first place. But I'm going to prove to you right now why we keep security guards, why we have it on our side, and at worst we just have like more effective and informed security guards, okay? They told us that it's more expensive and also had a point there about how like it's going to cost them a lot of money to develop this AI because they have to teach people about computer science and things like that. Why is this not true? Well, we already told you through our POI, and you were again engaged with it, that the company's going to be buying this tech, not developing it themselves. So this gets rid of all your points about like training people for computer science and actually having to develop this AI. So this simply doesn't stand. That's already a lot of saved money. But we also told you why they have, like the companies that provide this technology have a direct incentive to provide it at a cost where like stores are actually going to buy it, okay? If it meant that they would have to lay off like a ton of staff and deal with all that and lay off all these security guards, I don't think these stores realistically buy it, meaning these providers know it and are going to provide at a price where they don't have to make all these cuts, okay? Again, and even the point about them having to use servers. Yes, this is an additional cost. We don't like neglect the fact that there are more costs because of this AI system, but we're showing that it's not like so insane and large of a cost that they're going to have to let these security guards go. So what does this actually mean to this debate and why is it important? Well, one, it means that like now even at our worst, because we keep security guards, it shows that we just have more informed ones. They have access to this AI. They know when repeat offenders are in the store and they can go engage with it. It also means that all of the material about how offenders aren't going to be deterred because they don't have like a direct person stopping them doesn't really apply, but I will get into that later. But the bottom line is we now can show and win this debate on the fact that at worst we just improve security guard measures that already exist, leading to deterring more crime. And I'll again tie into it later. The next point that they tried to tell us is that like the public cooperation will go down, right? People are going to be scared to go into stores. It's going to be like a really harsh backlash. Why is this simply not true? Well, like so they tried to tell us that like people are not going to feel comfortable or happy with this AI, but I think it's incredibly important to note that like we already see the use of AI and even facial recognition all the time in like commercial spaces and like just in people's lives. You're thinking about like facial recognition on iPhones or just even just like other uses of AI. Even if people are unfamiliar with it, it's used a lot now, and I think the idea that people are going to stop going to the supermarket and getting food because of this fear is simply just unrealistic and not true. Again, we also told you through a POI that there are multiple other security measures even at smaller levels, but things like bag checks and like breath tests and things like that, right? These are measures people take that might inconvenience them slightly, but they understand it's for the greater good. I don't think people will be too scared with their face just being compared to like a past offender, because again, like this isn't something that's going to directly affect them, and even because it's being compared, there's not even data being kept on them inherently, so I don't think that this is really strong. So what this means is that they can't claim any of their points or like predominantly harms of people actually being scared to go to the store, meaning that people are still comfortable going. This doesn't harm like the supermarkets anyway because they aren't losing customers, because we've proven comprehensively there why people are comfortable with AI and why this point doesn't stand. So thirdly, I'm going to move on to this point about the deterring crime in general, but I will take a POI before I do that.
If security is the only way we're going to be stopping actual crime, what use is it then to alert them that someone who stole a chocolate bar 7 years ago walked into a store?
Well, again, it's not like that it's just going to all of a sudden prevent that person from going in or like make them stop them immediately, but it's just a reminder in the fact that they're more informed. So as I've said to you, like you've just said, the bottom line is now we just have more informed security guards who are aware that someone who has previously robbed a store is in there now. So this is just beneficial for them, and that's at our worst. The bottom line is we have all these benefits that I'm about to get into about deterring crime, as well as just the benefits to security guards. So yeah, it's a positive that they now know someone who's willing to rob from a store is in the store. So thirdly, to get into my points on deterring crime. So we told you that like people don't want to be on this record in the first place. They're not going to take these risks of committing crimes, and like how they're usually opportunistic. And then we also told you about like how it's going to stop reoffenders still. So what did they tell us? They told us that like first offenders are just going to be relaxed and go in because they know that they're not going to be put on the like there won't be any repercussions because they aren't previous offenders and they won't get caught. So this just increases people. It either gives them at least one first free pass to go in and rob these stores, or it will show them, or it'll just let them do it indefinitely because they aren't put on the record. Why is this not true? Well, as I've already comprehensively proven to you, and we did at second as well, like there are still security guards in the store already to act on this information when they get it. So what this actually means is that like, yeah, now they are going to get caught when they come to rob the store. They have all the same reasons not to come in and rob it, as well as just the fact that they will end up on this record, which was also ignored. We told you that like they don't want to risk being put on this record because of all the effects it'll have on their employment, on their school, especially if they're younger, and this went completely unresponded to, which I think is important to note. The next thing I want to talk about, secondly, is the effect it has on like reoffenders. So the bottom line is as I've already told you, we've proven that security guard point why they're still there and why it's not so expensive they'll cut all of them, meaning that they are just more likely to get caught again. There can be like police action, and like just generally like people don't want to return to a store where they know they're more likely to get caught every time they go. And thirdly, I want to address this point that they made, is that smaller stores are going to be like able to recognize that smaller stores are going to be more at risk. One important thing I think to note is that because now they've ran out of other options within that town or area, they are going to be coming to these smaller stores repeatedly, meaning that like these stores are going to be able to actually like recognize the people themselves without the technology, meaning that this chance goes down. And again, like secondly, you've told us that security guards are such a big measure like that stops crime, but these stores aren't able to actually afford them. So I think that if that's actually something criminals are factoring in before they steal from a store, they're actually going to target these stores anyway because they are more vulnerable. So I think that at best for the affirmative side, this is symmetrical. So what does that mean for the third point of clash about deterring crime? The bottom line is that we end up with less crime. We have less reoffenders because they still run the risk of getting caught and having the personal effects of these getting caught, which went completely unresponded to. And then last, even at worst, we just have better security guards, as I point to you. I'm quickly going to go over our split point and just how it kind of went unaddressed, right? We talked about how like AI isn't really pushed right now because there's not like super high corporate usage of it, meaning that the tech doesn't have a large incentive to increase. We told you how like that it being used is going to increase its ability to work effectively and the quality of this technology, which means that like in high-stakes situations like terrorism or having to recognize people in like really serious criminal situations, you actually still have better capability of this. This went unresponded to, but even the points I've already proven like win us this debate, but this is also just another benefit that went completely unrecognized. Now, to finish up the debate, I'm just going to kind of compare what the worlds look like in both situations, right? So on our side of the house, I've proven to you why we have like an actual reduction in crime, both the first offenders and just a decreased chance of reoffenders coming back because they don't want to be caught again. And for those first offenders, again, they don't want to get put on this record. They don't want to have all these negative like social and societal effects on them. I've proven to you why this. We've proven to you again it went unresponded to why like this entry crime's removed, and so the chance of having bad criminals later in life is gone. Thirdly, like we talked about how it can actually be good for the development of AI, and then what this actually leads to is that in our outcomes are all better for society. Like, and even in our worst case scenario, even if we take them at their best, we've proven why all we're going to end up with is a marginal improvement on the quality of security guards because they're more informed and have access to this technology. Proud to negate.
As is tradition, this flip speaking orders, I'd like to invite up the leader of this reply for the negating.
Affirmative never gave us any reasons why this technology would actually make crimes more likely, beyond the idea that security guards would get fired and the flow-on effects of that. What we told you from first was that we can win this debate if we prove that we get the best reduction in crime. That's also what most of affirmative speeches have revolved around, so that's what this debate should realistically be judged on. It's the most important issue. Let's take them at their best. Let's assume that security guards are reduced. Why do we still win? Because we deter the crime from happening in the first place, which means you don't even need those security guards to come in and enforce it, like when that crime would happen. Because we told you why this AI will be perceived as threatening to potential criminals. For reoffenders, obviously they're already on the system. They're going to worry that when they walk into the store, the AI will catch them, will track their face to what's already on the system, and that they will get caught, so they're not going to commit that crime. For first-time offenders, they are now scared that if they do commit a crime, their face will be registered and tracked. I think both sides broadly agree in this debate that people have kind of a general like wariness over the fact that AI does like work quite well, the fact that AI is quite technologically advanced, which means this applies in this case for these first-time offenders. They're now going to be more scared of committing a crime if they think that their face will now be registered on a system that can then track them whenever they come back into that store. Obviously, people want to go to supermarkets because they want to eat food. What this means is that we get less crime because we prevent these reoffenders from committing these crimes in the first place, and we also prevent these first-time offenders from committing crimes in the first place. We told you why that was really good all the way down our speech. All of the material they give you on why that crime is bad can then be applied to our side. But like, that's all like a material that goes towards us, even if these security guards like are reduced, even if stores have to fire some security guards. Note that they also didn't prove that like they have to fire all the security guards, only that like, you know, maybe you'd have to lay off a few. We told you why security guards are like an essential feature. You can't just get rid of all of them. But like, why are you not even going to see any kind of reduction in security guards in the first place? Like broadly because of this argument on cost, right? We told you about how these supermarkets have this huge amount of money because they are large chains, because they have this duopoly, which means they are able to charge high prices, and because like you saw during COVID, they did turn large profits, and this idea that like they wouldn't even be trialing this tech in the first place, like if they didn't have the money to invest. But also because the fact that like even if they were like short on costs, that like laying off some security guards wouldn't even provide them with all the costs that they need to buy this technology, because these security guards aren't even paid that well in the first place. We then also told you that like there is an incentive on these tech developers to sell the technology to these supermarkets at a lower price because they want people buying their technology. What this means is that you don't get this laying off of these security guards. We told you why security guards fulfill different purposes because like security guards are focused on enforcing the law, whereas this AI is focused on surveillance, and how you actually need both for the system to work. Like there's no point running an AI system if you don't have security guards to then enforce that. So what this means is that we get less crime on our side. Why is that really good? Why is that debate winning? Because we told you that it reduces this idea of entry-level crimes, of like people, at our worst case, it's just less crime, which is just like makes people feel unsafe in a supermarket, which like can lead to violence. But like then on long term, it reduces this idea of these like young offenders getting into more and more crime as they like learn that like, oh, I can get away with this. But secondly, that like it goes on their record, and that's really bad. It limits them opportunities in the future. Note that like these young like offenders are actually like not bad people. We told you that they are still good, that it's more peer pressure that's making them do this, and like that's debate winning material. Then just like on public distrust, even if you do believe that some of the members of the public feel a bit unsafe when they go into the supermarket because of AI, we told you why they're still going to go to the supermarket in the first place, and I think you should weigh the material on getting less crime to be much higher than that.
I'd like to thank the speaker for his speech. I'd like to invite up the affirmative individual.
Side negating failed to recognize that the idea of people being scared about having a record doesn't work when constant offenders have criminal records. They clearly know the actions of their consequences. What we have to deal with in this debate is people who stop the new offenders, the first-time offenders, because this is where you get the mass majority of crime that is able to be reduced, right? Firstly, I'll go on security guards, then secondly on deterrence for new offenders and re-offenders, and then thirdly on the public perception of the AI. Firstly then on security guards, NEG has basically conceded that their whole case on AI comes from the benefits of security guards being present. So we tell you there's no point spending thousands of dollars on this if you just need security guards in the first place. The main push they gave us here is that firstly, supermarkets have a lot of money because it's like a duopoly. They just get a lot of money in general, right? We don't think this is sufficient to disprove the arguments we gave you. We firstly told you that supermarkets are profit incentivized, so they will cut costs when they have to spend literally millions of dollars in AI training or other investments related to this, right? This looks like computer scientists having like master degrees and demanding very high pays for the work they're doing with their AIs. It also looks like the amount of time they have to pay these people, because it takes a lot of time to fully train this AI so that it can detect and actually be useful in the first place, to be as accurate as they want them to be. Secondly, we told you that supermarkets still have this security budget in which they will easily cut these security guards because the additional cost seems useless. We flipped their point here on security guards having this small cost, because they tried to tell us that like security guards is just a little additional cost onto the security. We tell you that when they see that the security guards like don't do much, or they believe it won't do much because they have this really advanced AI, or they spent millions of dollars on this AI, they see no point in having extra employees for the same purpose, right? Thirdly, what we gave you was that security guards actually are a substantial cost to the company, because they have to be paid there 24/7. You have security guards like around, you had them at the entrances and the exits, and on a grand scheme of things where you had them on every block, that's a lot of people you're trying to pay. If Neg only pushes that the idea of the super rich, like is the idea of super rich supermarkets, we can claim the security guards on our side of the house. The second push they gave us was that developers want to make it affordable for the supermarkets. This is literally inherently untrue. We told you because if we buy their material and how supermarkets have so much money, then this is literally contradictory, because the people who develop this AI know that they have a ton of money and can pay a ton of money, so they're not just going to lower the costs because they also have this profit incentive. Secondly, on deterrence then, and firstly on new offenders. For new offenders, the main push they gave us is that people don't want to do a crime because there is a record. We push throughout, like down the line, that these new offenders aren't even in the system of AI, because they're only recognized once you have actually been caught for the very first crime. This means a ton of people are now incentivized to just do a small little petty crime. A lot of teens might just like on the off occasion not have their money and decide that they're just going to steal a chocolate bar. When this adds up and the amount of people who are incentivized by this, we think this is really harmful. Secondly, on reoffenders then, we told you at second and third that reoffenders don't actually care about their record because they commit frequently, and like they clearly aren't deterred by these other forms. Even if they prove that people do care so much about this record, this is no different to having a criminal record, which you get on our side when you have security guards who can call up the police. We win this debate when we prove that first-time offenders are more likely to be deterred on our side of the house. Now, thirdly, on public perception. Their main push here was that people are already aware of CCTV and the fact that they're being surveilled, right? We told you from first that firstly, current CCTV measures are used as a retrospective tool, right? People look back on the CCTV, or like when somebody has actually committed a crime, there isn't like a huge group of people behind a supermarket watching the cameras 24/7. People don't feel watched. They look back when a crime has been committed. And generally, we tell you that people on their side of the house feel uncomfortable because people are skeptical about AI. We think that we can get all the benefits they get with security guards when they try to claim that security guards is how they get all their outcomes across.
I'd like to thank the speakers for a great debate. If you want to call forward and shake hands.
Which way? Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Should we move?